Howdy. This is our AI report video. I'm Jack Dean. We got Carson Gaylord, Eli Diamond. For the first question we have here, I'm going to ask you guys where, how, and how much AI you used for the project. I could start
I
us
can
off.
start.
Oh,
Either way. I mean, I can start. So
yeah,
I
you go.
really just used ChatGPT in order to kind of narrow down some of the sources and data that I wanted to put on the slides. So that was going along with actually finding some of the narrowed down sources for the Salesforce company, as well as kind of summarizing some of that data in order to more easily draw conclusions and more easily be able to put it on an actual slide rather than just having a bunch of random numbers and not really being able to convey what they mean.
Yeah, I mean, I used it to help me with formatting to make sure that I could like color match the rest of the slides. I used it for a little bit of brainstorming when it came up to things, and I also used it on the slide with a head count. Had it I fed it the numbers and had it make its own chart, um, so that it would like match the rest of the slide in format. But besides that, I also used it to help me find the sources I used. But for putting the slide together, I think we all did that pretty much ourselves. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, in that
Oh,
same sense, I feel like I used it pretty minimally, except with the exception of like some formatting and research. And then, like you said, I also used the free version of ChatGPT, and I used it to generate that graph I was talking about for the AI impact.
yeah. I believe I used Claude. They're like free Sonnet or whatever for my graph. For the distribution of the prompts among teammates, we kind of operated individually and then pulled them all together at the end. So, as the leader, my role in the coordination was I made the document, and we kind of distributed roles on and each person used AI to the extent that they thought necessary for filling their role. So, as the engagement lead, I didn't feel like I needed that much AI input for my parts of the presentation. But
Yeah, I feel
Yeah, at
like for
least
my part in the AI, I feel like I probably used a little more on the research because mine was a little bit more numbers based.
mhm,
I would agree to that. At least for the culture, it was more of kind of drawing conclusions just based off some of the sources that I found with AI and uh, not mainly just being able to narrow down the research.
yeah. What would you guys say was better about using AI compared to the previous projects?
I feel like
Um,
kind of all of us a little bit used it to narrow down some of the information we wanted to find, which in my case made it a lot quicker to actually do all the research behind the project.
I felt like we had a lot more numbers in this one than we did in previous ones, mostly because like the type of pitch that we were giving. But I feel like getting those exact numbers, AI probably helped get faster than if we had to read through the articles ourselves.
yeah, I feel like that definitely attributed to it. I know for sure it definitely helped everything go by faster for me as opposed to having to read through a long article to get to the exact point I wanted to try to make as compared to using the AI to produce like a summary and some results and stuff, some like key points.
Yeah.
And like making a graph by hand would have been a lot more tedious than just having the AI generate it for me.
Mhm. As far as the limitations are benefits that actual consultants can achieve from using AI in real life, I think as far as when they're working with a company and they're working with private data, they can't use AI at all, right? Um, so any if they start to lean on it too heavily, I think that's a real limitation that their company could face, especially when they get into contracting and stuff. So I think that'd be a risk of over relying on it. What would you
Well, I
say a
mean,
benefit is? Oh,
even like some companies have like their own AI models that they are able to use with like private data, but I feel like the benefit to it would be kind of what we did for this project. being able to narrow, like if you have a large set of data, just being able to narrow that down to something that is able to be conveyed to your shareholders, like a solid number that rather than displaying a bunch of these numbers that people may not be able to draw conclusions from, getting that single number or generating that graph a lot quicker is for sure a large benefit of using the AI in some of these roles.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think talking about how if AI could do this on its own, I think like realistically, like the work behind it, it probably could. But I think the big part of consulting is the genuineness that comes across from doing it person to person and the credibility of like how having these establishments for a long time, which the AIs don't really have that credibility.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as AI doing the work on its own, I don't think that's a thing it could do. Like the research and the numbers, everything it can do, but because so much, as you're saying, consulting is a person like to person job. It's communication. You're trying, especially when you're trying to have them trust you. It's a lot harder to trust AI when you know that everything it got from like it got from the base it was trained on. Um,
Yeah.
is there any improvements you think we could see specifically just from using AI?
Feel like you kind of touched on it before. Like this project was a little bit different from the previous ones, but just being able to get those like numbers that we had on there or those charts that we had on there, it was a lot easier with AI.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Um, for using AI in an actual consulting project like this one, because consulting firms are a value added service. So, what are things that like the consulting service should do that the clients probably should not do on their own using AI models?
I think it goes to the experience. I think the consulting firms have past cases that they can look back on and reference. And when you're trying to do it for your own company, you can't really do that. Or when AI is trying to do that, they can't really do that. They haven't done the work before and had similar cases they can look at.
Mhm.
I agree. I mean, I feel like they can get the research behind it and everything, but the consultant will still have to be able to draw the conclusions and convey like what their recommendations are to the company they're representing.
Mhm. Thing I'd like to add to that, and I think you mentioned it earlier, Carson, is some companies do have their own like trained models that they use. And I think if a consulting project were to build their own for like managing data of their clients, I think that's
Mhm.
something that's very like consulting sided because the client wouldn't spend that money or that time to do it, especially when they only need to do it every so often. But if you had a specified model that the consulting like company built, I think that spending their money towards that would be more worthwhile for them.
Yeah, good point.
Um, anything else we want to touch up on?
I don't think so.
I think that covered the most of it.
Yeah, I think so too.